International travel and shipping is still very difficult. And so if I can extend that to him, hopefully she can try to come to grips with why that might still be affecting things here in 2021, especially when they're the ones who are helping to continue this pandemic. Okay, that's not gonna be enough time. I appreciate that, but nah. We're gonna hang out for a couple of minutes, everybody. So anyway, Kellyanne Conway, remember when she was like a daily part of our lives? What a weird time we came through together. Anyway, there are still supply chain issues. I am very enticed by that new iPad mini. It's not in stock anywhere. It's probably saving me from purchasing it, but anyway. Okay, well, everybody, that's all the time we have for actual stories, but there's way more stuff coming up. Let me tell you about a little bit of it. First of all, Indisputable will be live in like less than 10 minutes. You've got Rashad Ritchie, you've got David Shuster, Kenneth Schrupp is gonna be on for a debate. I cannot wait to hear what he has to say about a couple of the stories we talked about on this show, actually, including, I'm assuming that the update on the Ahmaud Arbery case. But in any event, that's gonna be coming up very soon. You also have Deep Dive with Jordan Ewell. And I know what you're thinking, wait, you mean the Jordan Ewell that got a victory royale with you back on Game Busters last Friday? Yes, that exact Jordan Ewell. And if you didn't watch that was a very stupid call of yours. You should have been watching it, it was awesome. We killed a guy as he came out of a bathroom. Anyway, also, if you're not already following us in our podcast form, it's a great backup for running, walking around town while you're shopping, working out, those sorts of things. And if you enjoy us in podcast form, you can, of course, rate us and review us on things like Apple Podcasts, that sort of thing. Anyway, with that, anything else? Oh yeah, Rebel HQ. By the way, we got great people on Rebel HQ. Adrian Lawrence, David Shuster, Richard Ojeda, who I'm gonna be interviewing in just a few. You can be a part of that awesome squad. Go to tyt.com/careers to find out about an opportunity that's available right now. Okay, go on our Twitch. Brooke just linked to our Victory Royale. I'm gonna watch it later. But anyway, that's all the time we have for our show. Thank you everybody for tuning in. If you were watching the pre-show yesterday, I had referenced that I would not be here on Wednesday. The thing that was gonna keep me away has now been postponed. So Jared Jackson will still be here, but unfortunately for you, I will be as well. So tune in for Big News Wednesdays. It'll be going as it normally does. And with that, thank you for being here. Until next time though, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and we'll see you soon.
Welcome. It's indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Ritchie. We have a lot on the agenda today. Thank you for joining me on the program, breaking down news of the day. David Shuster, my big homie, TYT contributor, and the Bullpen segment, my great debate. Kenneth Schrupp, contributor of Young Voices. We will talk about, as they deem it, the border crisis. Top story of the day. This is an update story. Remember, there was a person deemed a good Samaritan who actually witnessed an active shooter, a citizen who witnessed an active shooter, disarmed the shooter by shooting the shooter who killed a cop. When the cops arrive, they kill the guy who stopped the shooter. No charges for the cop who killed the now deemed good Samaritan that stopped a person from killing more individuals. Let me bring your attention once again to Denver. A cop is walking free after the DA decided not to seek any criminal charges for the death of this man. Let's put him up. Okay. An Arvada police officer will not face criminal charges for mistakenly shooting and killing, as they call a good Samaritan, who stopped an active shooter in Old Town Arvada this summer, prosecutors announced on Monday. His name is Johnny Hurley. Okay, the picture you just saw, his name is Johnny. Johnny was trying to be a good guy. He saw an active shooter. He was armed at the time. This active shooter has now killed a cop. And yes, the active shooter had plans to do more damage. He likely did, in fact, save lives. But then the police arrive. Do they say, drop your weapon? Do they give a command to the guy? No, they decide to drop him. You know why? And of course, this is not part of the official record, but I'm giving you the real. When they heard that a gunman had killed a cop or was shooting at a cop, when they came to that scene, they had it made up in their minds. First to respond, we're gonna kill this guy. Well, it so happens that guy was already down. This gentleman, Johnny Hurley, had picked up the weapon in order to disarm the person to make sure that more carnage did not happen. Well, the cops came and killed him. The first judicial circuit attorney, her name is Alexis King, said at a news conference, she announced her decision to not charge the officer nearly 5 months after he shot and killed the 40-year-old Johnny Hurley. Let's show a picture of Madam DA. Madam DA says, nope, just a mistake, no charges. Arvada officer Craig Brownlow on June 21st shot and killed Mr. Hurley, who was holding the rifle of the active shooter he had just shot. The shooter, Ronnie Troik, 1 minute earlier had ambushed and killed Arvada police officer Gordon Beasley and fired several rounds in the Denver suburbs busy dining and shopping district. You really do have a gunman out of control. He was stopped by Mr. Hurley. Then this guy shows up. Let's show a picture of Officer Craig Brownlow. He's the one who killed Mr. Hurley. Okay. According to the narrative, the officer here had objectively reasonable grounds to believe and did believe he and others were in imminent danger of being killed that day, according to the DA. Thus, the officer's decision to shoot John Hurley was legally justified despite his heroic actions that day. King added, the DA added, that Hurley stopped further bloodshed and will be remembered for his selflessness. I'm sure he'd rather be remembered for being alive. Okay. Hurley's mother, her name is Kathleen, said that she said, and I quote, imagine that many people are angry, and that is understandable. I would ask that instead of acting out on your anger, that you use that energy to be the change you wish to see in the world. Mother Kathleen, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that. But we also need to have a conversation about policing, because literally, if they would have given a command to a guy that's trying to protect them, he would have immediately informed them, I am not the shooter. I'm sure he would have complied and dropped the weapon if somebody told him to. You have no narrative of any cop telling him drop the weapon. Remember, he's not a guy pointing a gun. At this point, it doesn't matter what he has done. Let's say he was the killer. Because I know we talk about this from the perspective of what actually happened, but let's talk about the perception of the cop. Let's say he was the killer. His gun is not pointed at anyone. He's not utilizing it in a threatening manner. Literally, you have pulled up to a guy who's simply holding a gun, not pointing it, not trying to shoot anyone, and not threatening to shoot anyone. So let's say this was the killer. You know what's interesting? We would likely not be having this same national narrative if it was the killer, even though the killer had not pointed a weapon at the cop, nor was trying to hurt anyone else. If the Good Samaritan, as he has been called, would have been told, drop the weapon, you think he would have tried to shoot a cop after just saving a bunch of people's lives from a cop killer? Come on. So while I do respect Mother Kathleen here and her sentiment, a conversation about policing in the United States of America must continue. My dear brother, what are your thoughts here?
Well, as far as change, one of the changes that I would like to see is to sort of separate police from prosecutors. I mean, it still seems like they act just as one, and prosecutors constantly either cover for police and police cover for prosecutors. That's the first problem, because the issue here is, look, I understand if the DA felt this police officer is gonna have to live with this the rest of his life, that he killed an innocent man, but it's not the DA's decision. It's a jury of your peers who get to decide that. I think there should have been some sort of charge, bring it to a jury, and then let the jury decide. Ordinary citizens in Colorado who are not police, who are not prosecutors, who have to decide for themselves, okay, should the cop have had more responsibility in how he handled this? What's the damage that should be done? What's the punishment for him for not yelling out, hey, drop your weapon, or giving this Good Samaritan an opportunity to surrender? For the DA to make this decision on her own, to me, that's abominable. And the second point I'll make, Dr. Ritchie, is a lot of people think, oh yeah, the way we solve violence in our society is with more guns. But let's just have everybody have a gun, and then good people with a gun can shoot bad people with a gun. And the fact of the matter is, police have been saying for years that the more people who have weapons out there, it is very difficult in the fog of war, in the fog of a crime scene, to try to figure out in an instant who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. And when you talk about police officers being amped up because one of their own has just been shot, one of their own has just been killed, they're gonna lack that ability, that judgment. They are impaired emotionally, and that's why the more guns that are there, yeah, great that the Good Samaritan was able to take out the killer, but he paid for it with his own life because the cop was amped up and didn't have enough sense to pause just for a moment.
Yep, and follow protocol, all right? Okay, Queens DA is now asking the court to dismiss 60 cases. You know why? Because of corrupt cops. Remember when I told you that bad policing is bad for everybody? Corrupt cops corrupt the entire system, the entire community, and the justice system included. So let me take you to Queens County. The DA, Melinda Katz, is formally asking a state Supreme Court judge to vacate the cases of 60 individuals. Now, some of them may be guilty. Some of them may actually belong behind bars. Some of them may not. Why? Because dirty cops were involved in their case and their ultimate conviction. Let's put up a picture of the DA, Ms. Katz. Okay. Earlier this year, she says, my office was informed of a list, damn, a list? Yes, a list of NYPD officers who were convicted of crimes which related to serious misconduct in regard to their law enforcement duties. Upon receipt of this information, I made a commitment to review the Queens cases in which the officers were the essential witnesses and take appropriate action. The step we've taken today is the first in an ongoing systematic review. We've talked about this before and indisputable, that when you have a bad cop, a corrupt cop who utilizes criminality and coercion, and also trades testimony for sex and money, which we've highlighted on this show, then you have to review all of their cases. When you have a racist cop, you have to go back and review all of their cases. This is what happens when you protect bad cops. This is what happens when unions protect bad policing, corrupt cops, criminal cops. This is what happens. Now, these individuals are going to be released because of the cop connected to the conviction. And it is the right thing to do. Now, remember, the district attorney had to wait on a letter, on a list from the NYPD. She got this list by request. The reality is, the George Floyd Policing and Accountability Act would have automatically provided this list available for me and you and the DA to review at any time when you have problematic cops like this. But there is no such federal list. So she has to depend on the NYPD to produce a list based on request. According to the press release, DA Katz has tasked her office's conviction integrity unit with the examination of Queen's cases where the prosecution of the defendant relied on the work of a law enforcement officer convicted of perjury or other serious crimes. Remember, it's ironic that you have to create a department called the Conviction Integrity Unit because there was no integrity in the conviction. You are the prosecutor's office. At least 10 of the 20 officers identified in the defense attorney's letter were involved in Queens County criminal cases. To date, the CIU has done an initial review of cases involving 3 of the 10 officers, identified these 60 matters which require dismissal. This is going to be a nightmare to get through from the DA's position as well as the city and probably beyond. But it's necessary for the justice system to move in the direction it should move. This needs to happen all over the country. Maybe citizens who are always pro-cop, pro-bad cop will wake up to the reality that bad cops hurt your bottom line. They hurt your reputation, but they also hurt your pockets, all right? David, what are your thoughts about these bad cops who now have created a system where many people are going free? Some should have never been locked up, and the truth is others that probably should have been locked up.
Well, look, I think you're spot on in terms of the cost that comes with all of this, because look, the cost is either to the freedom of people who should not have been convicted because their cases were tainted, because the cops were corrupt, and therefore there's no way that these people should have been found guilty. That's a cost to them. And then you have the cost to all the other prosecutors, all the other cops who were honestly doing their job, who were legitimately getting people who are criminals and getting them off the streets. And now all of that work is tossed aside, again, because the cops, these tainted, crooked cops have ruined it both ways. And that is a huge drag both on people who are wrongly convicted, but also on your community, which is trying to do the right thing in terms of the criminals are concerned.
Well said, well said. We've been following the murder trial of Travis McMichael, Greg McMichael, and William Roddy Bryan. They killed Ahmaud Arbery. It is not the Ahmaud Arbery case. It is not the Ahmaud Arbery trial. He's the person who's dead. Let's put up a picture of the killers of Ahmaud Arbery. Let's put up their picture, all right? They are facing murder charges right now. Trial is underway. Ahmaud Arbery was killed for jogging while black. He was chased down. They had a plan. They even admit they had a plan, because as soon as they saw him jogging through the neighborhood, one person says to the other, there he is, and they knew exactly what to do. Immediately, they knew what to do, which means there was preparation before Ahmaud Arbery ever got there and started jogging. They gunned him down. Now the trial is underway. This is the justice system moving in the direction it should move. The parents of Ahmaud Arbery, they're in the courtroom. They're having to see images that no parent should ever see, ever. And then Ahmaud Arbery's dad, he walks out of the courtroom visibly disturbed by the pictures of his deceased son. He gets outside and a reporter presents a dumbass question. And Mr. Arbery turned it around and gave them a dose of truth. Here it is.
Y'all got children? How many of y'all got children out here? Boys are 25 years old. How many of you? Hold your hand up. Hold your hand up if you got a kid 25 years old. I'm gonna ask you a serious question. If you seen your kid get blown apart with a 12-gauge shotgun like that, what would you do?
It's okay, sir.
Come on, Mom.
It's okay, sir.
And would you go look at something like that? Your kid. Come on, now.
It's okay, sir. It's okay. It's okay.
Should know how to feel.
Justice for Ahmaud!
I've met both of Ahmaud Arbery's parents. I've interviewed his mother before. They're great people. I've interviewed many of his family members. As a person who has been in broadcast media for a while, there's some questions you simply do not ask. You already know the answer to that one. Why did you leave the courtroom? What's wrong with you? Mr. Arbery, he did the right thing in how he answered the question. And I'm hopeful that this was a lesson to many. So let me give you a little background to what he said and make clear exactly what he said. He said, if you seen your kid get blown apart with a 12-gauge shotgun, what would you do? Okay. Marcus Arbery Sr. asked the pool of reporters outside the courtroom during the lunch break, would you go and look at something like that? Your kid? Come on now. Okay. The images were disturbing, so disturbing that court TV refused to show them. Very disturbing. My dear brother, you have been in journalism for a long time. I followed your work for years. You're one of the best at it. Was this a dumbass question at this time?
This was really dumb on several levels. There is a legitimate effort to try to help understand what somebody is going through with the trial over the murder of their son. But the way to do that, you are allowed, to all the young journalists, the older journalists, you are allowed to show empathy. You're allowed to say, hey, Mr. Arbery, that must have been really tough what you were just going through. Do you mind talking about your emotions or giving us a sense about how are you doing? He might have given the exact same answer. Well, how would you be feeling if you, but that's at least a sensitive way of doing it. You don't just say, oh, why'd you leave the courtroom? I mean, that's ridiculous. And the other part about it is I think so many people seem to lose context here. They think, oh, this is just a trial of these 3 killers. It's not just the 3 killers, because the defense has said that the community was all amped up because there had been some sort of robbery. And so the entire community was just assuming that there had to be some black person in the neighborhood who was going out and stealing things. And that gets everybody riled up and enables the crazies like these 3 to act on their racist impulses. So it's not just them that are responsible, this entire community that decided to brand and to stereotype people. That's the reason that Ahmaud Arbery was killed.
Absolutely, and let's not forget that the prosecutor, the district attorney, who has now been indicted as well, attempted to cover up the murder because she was friends with the McMichael. She has now been indicted also. She is no longer the district attorney of that circuit. We have more on the other side. It's indisputable, stick and stay.
Well, the Young Turks, the Friday show is gonna be awesome. We're gonna help you over here. Drop it.
We became the first ever daily online web television show.
No, the Constitution is the very core of America. The fact that we don't spy on American citizens, that we get a warrant, that we go to a judge, that we have a procedure, that we have due process, that is America.
On top of that, they go, why don't they just stay at their own schools? You gotta realize something. These schools suck. They want people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. You ain't got no straps, you ain't got no boots.
He lit these fires in trash bins all around town out of frustration.
99th most viewed channel today on YouTube.
The Shorties Award.
Best web host.
We passed 1 billion views. Voice Award winner, news and information channel, The Young Turks. Oh, another Webby.
The Young Turks.
Can I curse? Yeah! For those of you watching on live stream, yes, we have adopted a pet iguana that showed up at our door.
Haunted version in the dark with our silhouettes.
Now let's get to the best line of the debate. And it was definitely the one against relied.
I told you we were coming.
You talk about it when it becomes a problem. Our lack of gun control is a problem.
Nonsense BS story is hurting that cause, and they need to wake up and recognize that they are being had by these people.
Biggest gang in America. Question is, how do we make sure that we blame the person who is dead? What kind of democracy is that?
We should never forget that the most powerful people in the world exploited the greatest tragedy in American history to go to war in a country that had a lot of oil.
Rolling thunder. That's what this show is.
Never in my life did I think I would like to see a dictator. But if there's going to be one, I want it to be Trump.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
Where's the line? We've crossed every line you can imagine.
We are a socialist country. It's socialism for the rich.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
You don't have to know the truth, just believe what they tell you.
There is no bounds to their monstrous hypocrisy.
Tick-tock.
I think we're gonna win the Senate in 2020. And I think we're gonna have the House, and I think we're gonna have the presidency.
Tick-tock.
And in 2020, we're going to clean your clock, and we're gonna run you out of town, and we're gonna have an actual democracy in this country.
November of 2020 could also be potentially the greatest day of our lives. Let us whisper of a dream.
Say hi to the camera.
I don't like this.
All right, welcome back. We got a lot of comments. Before I get to the comments, let me remind you that Indisputable is available via podcast. All of it, all right? News of the day, broke it down by segments, and the Bullpen, my debate segment, available to you. I wish you Karen Wood, all of that available for you via podcast. Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. Search for Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie. Click follow and rate us with 5 stars. As I told you before, some lame gave me 1 star. Okay? We have to now show an abundance of 5-star ratings because of that one person. All right? Just can't have nice things on. All right. T1T member. Mickey C, the Silver-Haired Dragon says, when the white supremacists were screaming, good guy with the gun, we all said, yep, cops get to an active shooting scene and they'll kill anyone with a gun. Of course, shoot first, ask questions after. G, do we get cookies? And we said this, I mean, that whole good guy with the gun garbage, ridiculous, all right? But they've been touting it for many, many years. Next, TYT reporter says, but I thought the solution to guns was more guns. Lynn says, Arbery's killers look good in orange. They need to keep that style for the rest of their lives. Agreed. Super chat. I won't be afraid to call a cop if I have a gun in my hand. Yeah. I need a reason to believe says, what the hell happened to defense of others as a duty, Doc? Yeah. Hawk and break. Wonder how many cases these dirty cops put their stamp on and how many arrests might be innocent. A lot. And remember, the DA is only going over cases where those cops were the primary witness against the person. So it's not every case they touched, but hell, even those may need to be searched. Rosie, that man had to look at his dead child on the screen in a courtroom every day while he lives. His child is in the ground. There are no words. You're absolutely right. No words. And they're such decent people. Twitch Trader says, and police unions wonder why folks want to defund the police. The man did the right thing. He did what the NRA would celebrate, and this is what happens. This man would be great propaganda for these right-wing fools. Yeah. And Sankofa CSD says the media wanted to get that reaction from him. Yeah. Hate to say it, but you're right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free. Back off. I'm going to tell there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Ma'am, please leave our store. If you don't want him asking you, please leave.
You said you were going to show me this.
Ma'am, please leave.
It is against the law. You are not a private.
I guess it's against the law. Can you please leave? If you don't want to wear a mask right here.
Why did you suddenly get emotional when we were talking?
Ma'am, why do I have to? I'm not trying to have a conversation with you anymore. I'm asking you to leave.
And then all of a sudden you got worked up.
Can you please leave, ma'am? Can you please leave?
Your name.
My name's right here. My position's right there. Can you please leave?
Well, let me take a picture of your name.
Yeah, you can all you want to. Please leave. It even says it on the door, ma'am. Wear a mask.
Okay. Well, you also have on camera that you said I could take a picture of your name tag.
You can, of course.
Oops, it's foggy.
I can write it down on a piece of paper for you if you want me to.
Let me see if this works.
It's just a simple picture. Now that you're taking your picture, can you please leave?
Well, it's hard to read. Would you write it on a paper for me, please?
Ma'am, you are making this harder than it has to be. It's just a simple thing. It's been 2 years of wearing a mask.
And it's
2 years.
It is ridiculous.
Regardless of how you feel, it's our company. We're allowed to do it. I don't really care, ma'am. At the end of the day, at the door it says, please wear a mask. The law means what? Our business.
Call the police.
Can you just leave? Why do you want the police to come?
Why are you afraid of calling the police?
I'm not afraid of calling the police. Just leave.
Because they're sworn to protect our Constitution. The Constitution does protect my right to come to this place that is open to the public. Now, if you put this on Facebook,
you're going to do what?
You will be breaking the law.
I won't be breaking the law. I've asked you to leave.
It's a new law that was just passed.
I'm sure it is. Well, I guess it won't happen.
Too, because there's nothing to hide.
Look, ma'am, please. Well, if you want to wear a mask, then get a mask. If you don't want to wear a mask,
would have ended a lot sooner if you just let me purchase the food.
Unfortunately, I can't let you purchase food. You purchase food without a mask up here.
I don't want to purchase the food.
Then why can't you leave?
Well, I just made that statement.
That you don't want to leave?
Ask me nicely to leave, and I will go ahead.
Can you please leave our store, ma'am?
Yes, I will. Thank you very much, and I hope you learned that.
I didn't learn anything. Goodbye.
I got more video, okay? This is one of the most amazing Karen moments for the year. And we're at the end of the year. That's saying something. So you saw that back and forth. She's at an Arby's. She said that if he posted on Facebook, he will be breaking the law. Well, damn it, I guess we're breaking the law with him because this is going on Facebook. I can guarantee you that today, all right? There's more. So she acted as if she was going to leave, and then she did this. Here it is.
Ma'am. Exactly, I have the right to kill. Ma'am, please. Ma'am, I'll open the door for you, ma'am. I'll open it for you.
You know what? You guys are gonna be sorry when you lose all your freedoms because you're complying to stuff that are not the law. Learn the law.
Yes, it's a mandate. We know that.
It is open to the public. That is against the law. That is a mandate.
Yes, ma'am, it is a mandate, but you know what it means? It means that if our business, it's not that you have to wear a mask, it's that this company and everybody else, this people, yes, they do.
They do not.
They have a right to tell you this.
Because they are a private club.
We are a private business. We.
And I do have. What's your problem?
Ma'am.
I was trying to leave and you're putting your camera in my face.
Sir, can you please stop recording this?
You are filming me. I have it right here. Yeah. Well, I'm telling you to stop filming. Okay, well then I'll stay here.
Ma'am, please go, ma'am.
Did you ask him to stop filming?
Rumor has it this Karen is still at that Arby's location waiting on a roast beef sandwich. I did not know it was this serious, okay? Quite fascinating. I feel so bad for the employee who had to deal with this, but big ups to him for being so amazingly patient. Here are the rules. They are simple. A private company can enforce rules as it relates to things like no shoes, no shirt, no mask, no service. Say it with me, Karen. No shoes, no shirt, no mask, no service. See, this is what happens when your Karenicity meets Tucker Carlson tired ass talking points. It's a bad combination. And if you're getting your legal guidance from Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity, here's what happens. David, am I off here?
Can you before I get to your point, can you write that down for me?
Right,
can I get your picture so I can get? You're spot on, because what has happened is you have this entire group of people, and thank goodness at least this woman was sort of calm and kind of matter of fact, even if she was still crazy. But you have this entire group of people now who think that they know the law, that they can simply go to any place they want, not wear a mask, and you have to serve me because you're serving the public. And no, that's just not the case. And secondly, look, again, you mentioned it. Credit to the employee at that Arby's. I love Arby's. I think the roast beef sandwiches are amazing. They're super. I can understand why somebody would not want to leave the Arby's. But credit to that employee for being as patient as he was, and even sort of chuckling and laughing and doing his best, and even open the door for her. I mean, what do you want? There's the door. Don't go away, man. Just go away.
Yeah, he was very courteous. So Arby's should definitely give that guy a promotion. He knows how to handle things under extreme Karenicity pressure. Okay, this is a sad story, and I want to bring this to everyone's attention because I think the people around this situation did the right thing. There's a concerned person at a Costco saw a mother mistreating her own son, okay? There was a confrontation. Let me take you to the video, here it is.
I'm recording you, lady, because this is definitely abuse.
I said, you know what, you're abusive. Get out of my face.
Do not come near me.
Let's go.
Well, we gotta call the police right now.
I really don't care what you do, honestly. Great.
You're wonderful. You're not right.
You're not right either, so bye.
All right.
Are you okay?
Stop it. People are calling the cops because you're acting like a moron.
No, because you're acting wrong.
You know what? Why don't you mind your own business?
Yes. You slammed him against the wall and told him you're gonna punch him in front of all these people here.
Yes, I did. I molested my child.
Dame el teléfono.
Oh my God. Come on.
The child continued to hang his head low, did not make eye contact with his mother or anybody else. I was a foster kid, and I was a victim of physical abuse myself. I work with foster kids today. Many of them are in that foster situation because of physical abuse. And when you see a parent physically abusing their child, I do think you should say something. Now, it's a double-edged sword. It really is. And I have to just mention it because it's real. Sometimes the parents take it out even more so on the child. You saw what that mother did. When she was confronted about her abuse inside of that store, she looked at her very young kid and said, "This is your fault because you're acting like a moron." Zero responsibility for her actions. Now, once you do something like this in front of me, you have made it my business, mine. And I have had to get involved in situations like this publicly before. I do it every time. It's a catch-22 because, as I said, sometimes the mother can go the opposite direction and try to treat the young person even worse. David, what are your thoughts on this one, brother?
Look, I mean, this one hits me as a parent because I weep. I mean, it just for that poor kid. And we find out that some people who think that they want to be parents and then they become parents and they really shouldn't be parents. Or there are people who go through a mental health crisis and they take it out on the people who are close to them. In any case, when this woman says, to your point, Dr. Ritchie, mind your own business. No, it is all of our business. It is society's business to try to help people who are the least fortunate among us. In this case, this poor child. And if that involves getting some help for this mother, getting her some resources, trying to find out, is she in the midst of some sort of mental health breakdown, whatever it is, all of us have a responsibility, because what happens, Dr. Ritchie, as you know, is that when a child faces this kind of behavior from their parents, that kid is likely to replicate it when they grow up, and this becomes a terrible cycle that gets perpetuated. And at a certain point, all of us have to step in.
That's right, and even if they don't replicate it, it becomes psychologically damaging to their development, their social skills, their social progress, where they will later likely have to seek professional help in order to get over that. I want to put a number up on the screen. If you ever witness something like this, mistreatment, I want you to call this number, all right? 1-800-799-SAFE. You can call that number, 1-800-799-7233, or go to thehotline.org, and you can also text START at 88788, all right? Okay. We have more on the other side. Is indisputable. Stick and stay.
I want you to take on the spirit of one of my sheroes, Harriet Tubman, who said these words: if you hear the dogs barking, keep going. If you see the torches in the woods, keep going. If they're shouting after you, keep going. If you want to taste of freedom, keep going. Is it right or wrong that somebody has a living wage? Is it right or wrong to have paid family medical leave? Is it right or wrong to cancel student debt? Is it right or wrong to make sure that no matter who you love, how you identify, that you get the opportunity to live a good life too? This boils down to right or wrong. It's just that simple.
It's about saying to people who work for you, this will not be tolerated on horseback, on bicycle, on tricycle. You will not treat people like this. They are human beings.
Because with these hands, we will rise.
Nina Turner steps into the direct fire sometimes in the name of the people.
And is that we have become numb to some of the very real challenges in this country.
They don't care. I want to say something else, but I know we're going to keep the PG. They just don't care.
You get to keep your doctor. Don't let them scare you about that, because it's not government taking over the service. Dr. Dooley, can I get an amen? Okay, we got a doctor in the house. If you want clean water, clean air, clean food, keep going. If you want a better country, a better world for yourselves and future generations, you must. And if you know that we are in this fight together, you must.
Did you know that more than 20% of the world's oxygen comes from the Amazon? Why? Because of trees. I know what you're thinking. Of course! So what do we want to do? We want to plant more trees so we can save the climate. It's quite literal. So that's what leads to our new partner, Plant Your Change. Love it. It's so easy. What they do is you take the credit or debit cards you already have and you plug it into the system. And if you so choose, you get to round up every purchase to the nearest dollar and they plant a tree for you, okay? Now you could also choose if you wanna do it on only certain kinds of purchases or only so often, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But literally every cent makes a difference here. It's Plant Your Change. And if you wanna know more information, just go to tyt.com/trees. Let's go save the planet together.
Now, top. No. No.
Today, a terrible day for the internet, a terrible day for America. The internet as we know it is not going to exist anymore.
A real dark day for information, and yet another way that they're bleeding out the democracy.
We're now going to have these gatekeepers of information deciding what we can and can't see, and that's what scares me the most.
Whether you're conservative or progressive or anywhere in the middle, this is the one thing we should all agree to. Protect the internet, because the establishment is coming for it. Don't let them destroy the internet.
All right, welcome back. Okay, I got a lot of comments to read. Just a reminder, make sure you do download the podcast for Indisputable. Take it wherever you go. Rate us 5 stars if you enjoy the programming, okay? All right, let's get to it. We got TYT member Lynn says, why does Karen care if he's putting the video on Facebook if she isn't doing anything wrong, right? Or not being obnoxious, yeah. Super chat, Brenda R says, none of us asked to be here, so adults should consider that before bringing more children into the world. Yeah. Carlos Ordonez, not only did the kid get injured, he has to sit there in the shadow of shame by his mother. That's right, Carlos. Very insightful of you, because that is emotionally impactful as well. Rosie, I'm an abused former child. I wish someone had tried to help me. F this lady. Catnip Farmer. I was in foster care because my parents were abusive drug addicts and dealers. I hate when people would be with children. I hate when people would be with children, just hurts my heart. Okay. Dissident PM. She's leveling up Karenicity before our very eyes. Yeah. I think this is Kensai Immortal. They need to start kicking these people out Jazzy Jeff style. Agreed. All right. You know the infrastructure bill that passed and the handful of Republicans that supported it, 13, right? Watered down version, Republicans are now getting significant death threats. Not only them, but also their family members. Let's put up a picture of one of these Republican lawmakers, okay? His name is Fred Upton. Fred Upton appeared on CNN on Monday with Anderson Cooper to discuss the blowback because he supported a bill that, in my opinion, did not go far enough, but for a Republican, just right, okay? Here's some of that now.
Traitor. That's what you are. You're a piece of traitor. I hope you die. I hope everybody in your family dies. You piece of trash. Voted for dumb. You're stupider than he is. He can't even complete a sentence. You dumb traitor, piece of piece of trash. Hope you die. Hope your family dies. Hope everybody in your staff dies. You piece of traitor.
Yeah, so this was not the only death threat he has received. This has now become commonplace after the vote. Effing traitor, said the man, that's what you are. You're an effing piece of traitor. I hope you die. I hope everybody in your effing family dies. Okay? Now, why are we here? You see, Upton, he explained that this was not normative. He explained to Anderson Cooper, this was not the normal process of political back and forth. This was different. Well, Upton, I do feel bad for your family, but I don't feel bad for you. And let me tell you why. Because people like yourself, you gave it a pass. You allowed the narrative of white supremacy to become popularized through Donald J. Trump. You did not aggressively challenge the notion of this nationalism seeping through the crevices of America. You did nothing. You wanted to get along. You and your colleagues. I get it. You voted for a bipartisan bill. Whoop-de-doo. You really watered it down. All right. But this is happening in part because of your party. Okay? This is why. You can't create the Frankenstein monster and then act as if Frankenstein is a total anomaly. It's coming back to you now, just like it came to Mike Pence and others who co-signed on the bull. David, what are your thoughts about Mr. Upton and other lawmakers on the Republican side who are receiving significant death threats now?
Well, look, it makes me all very sad. I mean, I used to remember when there were some Republicans who may not support the policy. Maybe you don't support an infrastructure bill or an education bill, but you at least told your supporters, hey, we have policy disagreements. We win some, we lose some, and that's just how politics is done. And don't go after people because they have a different political prescription for what ails us. Now, you have, as you pointed out, you have so many Republicans who just sort of look the other way because maybe the votes are not, going the way that are going their way. And so there's no condemnation of the violence. There's no telling people, hey, we are better than this. And then as a result, you have the nutcases out there who think, okay, now it is okay to accuse somebody of being a traitor for what? For trying to improve that road, that bridge, that river passing, so you don't get hurt as an American citizen crossing it. Somehow that makes the government, people who support that, a traitor. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And again, there's a responsibility on all members of your party to educate your supporters and to say, hey, if you disagree with having bridges and tunnels and roads rebuilt, that's fine, but at least have respect for people who have a different point of view.
That's right. I agree 100%. All right. David, we look for anti-Karens. We don't just look for Karens. We look for anti-Karens in the world. Those that step against the extreme spirit of Karenicity. Well, I have found an unorthodox anti-Karen, but absolutely is an anti-Karen. His methodology, it worked. Here's the first video.
You're screaming at employees in Walmart. Get out of here.
That's racist.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
The United States doesn't have an official language, jackass.
Stay out in yards over there. Period.
You're Larry.
Just stay out of the yards.
You're Larry.
Yeah, so are you.
I'm really not. You're the one.
A typical punk black.
Huh?
A typical punk black. That's all you are.
So you putting race in this? I'm really not black. I'm a Frenchman, so it doesn't bother me.
Whatever. Still a mouthy, disrespectful little.
Yeah. So are you.
No, I'm a hell of a lot older than you, and I got more respect for people than you do, and their property.
Yeah, right.
Come over there again and find out.
Okay. All right, I got more video. Remember, he started with the racism. A typical punk black is what he called the young man. The young man was not on his property. Obviously, he may have been on his property earlier, but he did not cause a conflict. He continued to walk, and now he is off of his property, enjoying himself on the lake. That was the racism. Here comes the assault. Here it is.
Get the out of here. Get out of my sight.
You're not on your property now, so I'm not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
Hey.
I want you out of my face.
Hey, can you please not touch me?
Out of my face.
This is not your property. I'm not going anywhere.
I don't care.
He has now assaulted this young man, physically made unwanted contact, pushing him, continuing to be rude. Once again, he's not on his property, okay? This is the messed around and found out.
You better not touch me no more. I'm not from Florida. I'm from Texas.
Hey, I don't give a where you're from.
I don't give a
Hey.
Now touch me again, I'm gonna beat your bitch ass.
Hey.
I'm gonna show you how to get black. Touch me again, I'm gonna beat your bitch ass. So all that on my face.
Do me a favor.
Listen, I do not condone violence, okay? I do not. I'm supposed to say that for TV. I do not condone violence. I do condone self-defense, and damn it, it looked like self-defense to me. Okay? David, self-defense to you?
Look, anytime somebody comes at me who's from Florida, I'm gonna say, hey, I'm not from Florida, I'm from wherever else. As a warning to that person, you better back off. Look, to be clear, I think the real hero in all this, and credit to that kid who maintained his composure for as long as he did. I think the real hero in this case is the person who had the sense to film this, because at least now the entire internet, Facebook world, we can all publicly shame that cracker wherever he is and say, okay, be on the lookout. This is a racist mofo and steer clear of him. And we need more people to whip out their cameras and say, okay, well, the justice system may not work and maybe this person's not gonna feel anything unless we publicly shame them. And that's what we all have to do.
You know, I do find it fascinating that naturally this was recorded, but if it wasn't recorded, think about it. If this older white gentleman would have went to his home and called the police on this black male and said, this black male has assaulted me, he pushed me to the ground, he was on my property trespassing, we know the black male would have been arrested, no issue, none at all. But there's a video, there's the unsung hero, the smartphone, that documents everything that took place. And yes, it was a physical assault and a response to that physical assault. And that's what happened. You have the right to defend yourself. Okay, now, I have an issue with Twitter and with the lawmaker, a Republican out of Arizona, all right? Let's go to Paul Gosar. Shared a photoshopped, animated thing, which is a parody video that shows him killing a Congresswoman, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Okay, so that's already crossing the damn line, right? But the story goes deeper than that, all right? Let's show some screenshots of this madness. The video shows Marjorie Taylor Greene, the superheroes, battling against Joe Biden and migrants crossing the border and killing AOC. All right, let's show some more of the pictures. According to this fantasy world that Paul lives in, he's able to kill AOC. This is his fantasy. He made this fantasy up. His fantasy, right? Okay, sick individual here. He posted this, he's proud of it, he's cool with it. Under his own Twitter page, here's what Twitter says, right? Twitter says, this tweet violated the Twitter rules about hateful conduct. You would assume the tweet would be removed and it ends there, right? But no. Twitter has a new gray area now. However, Twitter has determined that it may be in the public's interest for the tweet to remain accessible. The hell? Wait a minute. You just said this is hate. Okay, this is about killing elected officials. Your community standards have been violated. You say that this tweet violated the Twitter rules. But for some reason, it is such a public interest that we must be okay. Oh, I get it. If you put it in a cartoon, you can do almost anything. So let's say this, all right? Let me give you a scenario just to see if this works to the other extreme here, Twitter. So if there are white people calling black people the N-word and they do it through animation, even though that's technically a violation of the Twitter rules, I mean, is this now more so about public interest? Do they get a pass here? It's really ridiculous. AOC did respond, and here's her response. So while I was en route to Glasgow, a creepy member I work with who fundraises for neo-Nazi groups shared a fantasy video of him killing me, and he'll face no consequences because GOP leaders cheer him with no excuses. Fun Monday, well, back to work because institutions don't protect WOC. Yeah. David, thoughts?
Well, I'm not surprised that there are some constituents of creepy Paul Gosar and any other member of Congress who would do things that are just whacked, right? I mean, that's been happening for a long time. But the difference now is that 20 years ago, if a member of Congress retransmitted, repromoted, retweeted, if there was Twitter back then, something this offensive, that member of Congress would have been sanctioned. They would have been kicked out of the caucus. They would have been stripped out of committees, and their party leader would have said, "No, you're not doing that again." This time, it's nothing but crickets from Kevin McCarthy, the Republican. Why? Because he somehow doesn't want to offend the extremists in the Republican Party. Because Kevin McCarthy thinks, well, this is his ticket towards becoming the House Speaker if Republicans take over. It's absolute nonsense. And again, it shows that the basic civility and decency that we used to have among members of Congress, that's just out the window. And so, okay, Republicans, remember this, because the next time a Democrat retweets something about a Republican being killed, are you gonna stay quiet then? Because I don't think so.
Yeah, and remember, Republicans are the ones that talk about how things like this go too far. And Twitter tries to silence the conservative voices. Well, damn, Twitter is literally saying, we're letting this person break the rules because obviously, according to Twitter, it has some amazing public value here. Wow. All right. Always a pleasure having you on Indisputable, my friend. Tell people how they can follow you and your great work.
Dr. Richie, people can see some of my stuff at Rebel HQ, which is on TYT's Facebook page. There's also a YouTube channel, Rebel HQ. You can search for it. We do videos, we do analysis. There are also some shows that appear on. So anybody who wants to do that and can follow me on Twitter at David Shuster. I'll try to reply, although not to the creeps like Paul Gosar.
There you go. Well put. All right, thank you, my friend.
Thanks,
we got
Dr.
more
Richie. Take care.
On the other side. It's Indisputable. Stick and stay.
So a lot of progressive office holders are doing something fun. I like fun. They're doing the last 2 years in 2 minutes. Okay, we're gonna try it here. First, I wanna let you guys know about the years before that. Hey, remember we started the Just Democrats here on the Young Turks. It was officially launched on our air, basically by you guys. And then we featured AOC, we featured Cori Bush, and Ro Khanna became the first ever Just Democrat incumbent, all on the Young Turks. Now, the last 2 years have been a spectacular follow-up to that. So let's put the 2 minutes on the clock and do this. Young Turks got to start back in 2002, and I think we've been an important part of the progressive movement ever since. What we mainly do is amplify the progressive voice and candidates out there, and I think we've done a pretty good job. Right now, we're currently #1 most engaged news politics network online, beating CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC, all of them. We're #1 in total minutes watched. That means not only the number of people watching, but how long they watch. We just crossed 20 million followers and 500 million monthly views. Now, why? That's because actually the country's progressive. It's 2/3 progressive, and you guys have allowed us to be your voice, and we're incredibly thankful for that. So what did we do with that voice? Well, let's look at 2019. We went all over the country talking to you guys and the candidates. So we were in Miami, we were in Detroit, we were in Houston, and we were in Iowa. In fact, we were all over Iowa. You guys were all over Iowa, and all of the candidates saw you guys. We had wonderful people speaking, like the one and only Nina Turner at our rallies. Bernie Sanders stopped by, Andrew Yang, Elizabeth Warren. We interviewed almost everyone on the campaign trail, with the exception of Biden and Buttigieg. And we held them accountable. We even did a progressive economic pledge, and so many wonderful people signed on to that. Bernie Sanders, Warren, Marianne Williamson, AOC, the entire squad, Justice Democrats, and so many others. Now, on top of all that, we started a show called The Conversation, where we featured so many progressive thinkers, writers, and candidates. And one of the candidates we featured in 2019 was Jamal Bowman. Here comes Jamal Bowman. Then we had an amazing 2020. We hired a climate reporter. Damage Report passed 500,000 subscribers. Young Turks passed 5 million subscribers. We're getting the message out to more and more people. Bernie Sanders comes on in the heat of the primary. He comes on after the election to say what we're going to do for the future. And then Marie Newman wins. Jamal Bowman wins. Cori Bush wins. And then just when you thought it couldn't get any better, here comes Nina Turner. Hello, somebody. And she's running for Congress, and she comes on the Young Turks first. On election week, we had nearly 2 million hours of viewing. We're #1 destination for progressives. You made all that happen. This is amazing. And thank you for those 2 years. What, I went past 2 minutes? Of course!
Viewers had asked for an interview with the TYT Lizard. Mr. Lizard. Oh, you changed colors today. Nice. I don't even know how you feel about us. Do you even like us?
Well, you guys made me this awesome house, so I'm kind of in your debt. I was found outside on the street, and you gave me a home. Granted, it was a really crappy home for a while, but then through the power of fundraising, I became a person who has a multi-level Trump-style mansion.
You do. By the way, you never looked better, man. Normally, you're just green or just brown. But today you're in mid-lizard, right?
I'm not very smart. I'm a lizard, so I don't know how the science works. I guess this is just my mood. It's not every day that thresholds like this are broken. I'm just so excited. I can't contain my pigmentation.
And now you're showing it off.
Yep.
Yeah, I've never seen the lizard like this before.
Welcome back. All right, we got a lot of show left. Let me remind you, Indisputable on podcast. Make sure you get that anywhere you listen to podcasts, okay? Get it now, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast. Search for Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Richey. Click follow. Rate us 5 stars because some lame gave me 1. There you go. All right. Also, don't forget TYT is looking for you. We're looking for new content creators for Rebel HQ. People who can write, produce, host, edit short form editorial videos on breaking news and political stories with a progressive point of view. If that's you and you are interested, make sure you go to tyt.com/careers. Let me read some of these comments. TYT member Mickey C, the Silverhaired Dragon. Bipartisan equals mostly written by Republicans, big corporate giveaway, $25 billion in welfare to fossil fuel, which already makes billions in profits. Now the construction industry can move in and charge 5 times as much to build, repair roads and bridges. Then they can charge tolls to pay for it, even though we've already given them billions of our taxpayer money to pay for it. Sounds about right. Upton should be concerned. These are his own peeps that he's been courting for years. And these are the same ones who plotted to kidnap and murder your state's governor. Yep. You sowed the whirlwind. Now you reap what you've sown. I sincerely hope nothing happens. But how is this different from AOC being threatened by fellow Representative Paul Gosar? Yeah. Bernie the Kiwi Dragon, Captain No Splash. He barely missed the lake. You're right, Captain No Splash. The Dark Canuck. I play stupid games, old man, get stupid prizes. Yeah. I 100% agree. Okay. Twitch. Laughing my A off, he realized what it was real quick when that young man got up in his face. Yes, you literally saw all of his ego leave his body when that young man had simply had enough, okay? Shuster said, mofo just made my day. The Dungeon Dadster, the Titans are victims in the show. How can we say true irony? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the bullpen. Yep, in the bullpen today, we have Kenneth Schrupp, contributor, Young Voices. Very, very impressive background. Read up on him when you get a moment. Kenneth, good day, welcome.
Thank you for having me on, sir.
Thank you for being here. We're gonna chop it up about the border crisis as it has been termed. I don't wanna presume what you know or believe about that subject, so I will give you an opportunity to express your sentiment and then respond.
Wonderful, thank you. So before we really start our discussion, I do want to lay out some common ground for us to build this conversation on. There are probably as many as 22 million undocumented immigrants in the United States. Studies have shown that most of these people do not decrease wages or jobs for Native Americans and can be a financial net positive for the federal government because, as we both know, it's illegal for undocumented immigrants to receive federal benefits. Current rules that merely fine companies for knowingly hiring large numbers of undocumented immigrants while applying criminal penalties to the undocumented workers, these rules aren't fair. Those in management who knowingly participated in this crime should face criminal charges as well. Now, let's look at the current state of affairs. It's completely untenable. The border crisis is the direct effect of the current administration's indirect support for illegal crossings as a means of entering the United States. Our government probably should know who's able to enter this country, and this current level of crossings, 1.7 million in fiscal year 2021, is not a positive reflection of our government's ability to carry out its basic functions. If you remember, in December of 2020, when President Trump was still in office, there were only 74,000 border encounters noted by CBP. By March of 2021, just 2 months into the Biden administration, that number had risen to 173,000. Clearly, these changes have resulted from the rhetoric and policies by the Biden administration.
You know, that's really interesting because we've seen increases and decreases, sometimes based on partisan politics and sometimes just based on what happened in the foreign country that destabilized the nation even more. So I agree with your first statements, right? This is not a job stealer from Americans, as many conservatives will say. Automation is, but not undocumented immigrants. And also the criminal aspect of the federal statute says if you hire undocumented workers, you're in violation of federal law, but you never see the CEO, the hiring manager, or the HR person getting arrested when they know good and damn well they hired 1,000 undocumented workers for their company. So I agree with that conclusion and those fact bases 100%. But let's talk about the what. Because many times the American government, Democrats and Republicans, they tend to be very reactionary as it relates to immigration policy. So here's what we do know. I'm glad you cited the number 22 million because there are some who are saying it's 10 million or 11 million. Even your number 22, which I believe you're closer to accurate than they are, you really don't know because the nature of the data means it's very difficult to know exactly how many are in the United States of America. But we know this, our brothers and sisters who are undocumented workers give a net positive contribution to the American economy. They are part of the ecosystem of the American economy. They are here, right? So let's look at the why, the what and the why. Over 90% of undocumented workers come here for what?
For work.
For work, like that's the catalyst, not to sell dope, not to rape anybody, not to do anything, right? They just want to work, right? Now, their economy is still supporting, or at least their country is still supporting their families. So 91% of undocumented workers from Mexico in particular, what do they do with the money they make in America?
It's largely remittances that the governments receive as tax income, partially as tax income, and it goes back to their families.
That's right, goes back to their families. So their families are existing in a country where the economy or the government has been destabilized to a degree and the opportunities are not there. Here's my question to you, and maybe we can have a thoughtful conversation about it. Okay. Why do you think the American government has never engaged in a thoughtful program to help stabilize some of these economies so that there's more opportunity available in the home nation that many undocumented workers come from in order to stabilize the influx of massive crossing into the border? And we can't forget that we have a statute that allows for this migration. It's called asylum. And a statute is a contract. You have a written contract that says, here's your opportunity in America. You need to go see a judge. Routinely, we have seen administrations violate the asylum law, which is a contract with others, and send people back, ship them back without a judge seeing them, which is a violation of law. A judge has to tell you if this is a proper asylum claim or not. That's how our statute is written. Judges here in America are interpreters of the law. So why do you think we have not tackled it holistically? And why do you think we currently continue to violate the asylum laws in the country?
Well, I think selectively we have tackled this holistically. Let's look at the success of Costa Rica. Costa Rica is one of the best economies in Central America. They're becoming a major production center for everything from advanced machines for healthcare to even chips for Intel. This is a country that is now politically stable and American investment is pouring into. I think private American enterprise and investments in Central American countries could be a prime way forward for us stabilizing these countries and providing employment for these people so they don't have to come to the United States. But the problem is cartels that are reaping in billions and billions of dollars each year because we have we have holes in our border that allow them to charge $10,000 per individual for every attempted crossing. If we're taking this year's number of 1.7 million and assuming the DHS's rate of capture of 70%, that's probably about 2.4 million crossings, equating to $24 billion that these cartels are using to destabilize these governments all throughout Central America and Mexico.
Yeah, agreed. We need to go after the cartel, right?
Right.
You get no argument from me, but that's not the narrative. The narrative in the United States of America, by way of political propaganda, is that somehow individuals who are simply trying to have a better life, make a better life, come here to America based on either the asylum order or sometimes based on a work order. Because the truth is, if the American employer would not hire the undocumented worker, it would dry up immediately anyway, all right? So we can't conflate the cartel with undocumented workers, brother. Because if you work for the cartel, you are working, you have a job, an illegal job, but you have a job. You're not coming to America to get a job. So why are we conflating both of these issues when we discuss undocumented workers or immigration in the United States?
I'm not conflating them.
Okay, so they are separate issues for you?
Yes.
All right, let me remind people of this. I'm glad you said that. Because many on the right, many conservatives do conflate it. You've heard the rhetoric, you've seen people talk about this, for years.
But, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, no, go ahead.
I was going to say that the cartel does use people to smuggle in drugs to commit human trafficking. This is like the people that they traffic who are victims are used for nefarious ends by the cartels.
Yeah, 92% of dope dealers in America are Americans.
Right.
Yeah, all right, so I just want to make sure you knew that stat. Let me go down a list, comparatively speaking, of undocumented immigrants and US citizens. US citizens are twice as likely to be arrested for violent felonies, 2.5 times more likely to be arrested for felony drug crimes, over 4 times more likely to be arrested for felony property crimes. This is according to a published study, peer-reviewed study, by the University of Wisconsin-Madison. The notion that somehow we have a problem because of the cartel. Well, the cartel is a separate issue than your undocumented worker issue. And listen, it can't be a problem. Undocumented workers cannot really be a problem when you have already admitted on this show they are net positive for the economy of America. Where's the problem? They are a minority in the sense of committing crimes. Americans commit way more crimes than they do. And the number one violators of overstayed visas in America, do you know who they are?
Canadians,
number one violators. Now, here's what's interesting. If brown people or black people were the number one violators of that immigration law, we would be talking about it. It would be national news. People would have an issue with it, right? But nobody has an issue with Canadians being the number one violators of that immigration law.
There's a significant difference between people who have come in with visas who we've had to approve, right? Than people who come in who have escaped detection by our border services. As you know, there's a 70% capture rate by DHS. So if 1.7 million people were apprehended last year for fiscal year 2021, that means about 700,000 were able to enter without being caught. And we have no idea who these people are. They're not people who have gone through any kind of vetting process like these Canadians have.
Do you think it's ironic that when we talk about immigration policy, we start to be very selective about who is allowed to break the law and who we want to enforce laws that don't exist on? We literally break our own laws as it relates to asylum claims in this country. You do not find that problematic that we are in violation of our own laws and we choose to not enforce the written laws on Canadians, but will violate our own laws against brown folks?
I think we should consistently apply the law equally to all people. We have the 14th Amendment that requires that.
Yeah. What do you think the solution is?
I think that to what? To the border crisis? What are you asking?
To the crisis in whole. Like I don't consider it a crisis when you have so many net positives, but you all utilize the terminology border crisis or immigration crisis or illegal aliens. I don't think anybody's illegal. People are people. But what do you think the solution is? People have presented a wall is a solution, et cetera. What's the solution to you?
I think the solution for people coming into the southern border is likely to promote American investment in Central American and South American countries to ensure that there's an industrial base and jobs there that can support the local economy. We also should secure our border to ensure that the cartels cannot receive $24 billion a year or more to smuggle people and drugs into our country so that the Mexican, Central American governments are not destabilized. I additionally think that we need to look at and understand what the labor needs of our economy are. We have, when the United States was an agrarian country, we needed as many people to come in and farm as possible to increase our GDP. Today, we're looking more towards a skilled economy with skilled sectors, and we should probably have an immigration system that reflects the need for skilled labor.
Brother, I actually agree with you on about 70% of that. We do need to stabilize other nations to make sure the opportunities are available there, similar as they are available here. I agree with you. I think there should be a holistic strategy, a bipartisan strategy. Everybody should jump on that. Also, when you look at the drug cartel, Americans that represent 5 to 6% of the global population, they consume over 70% of all illegal dope by the cartel.
It's terrible.
It's horrible, right? So you have this very strong consumer base. My point to you is this: you won't dry up the drug trade with the culture we have in America. The culture is what it is, right? So they will find opportunities, and I think it's naive to think that multi-billion-dollar cartels, which are multi-billion-dollar illegal companies, that they depend on individuals on foot crossing over a border. They don't. They depend on boats, trains, and planes.
Right. They
to
use ships
smuggle
and
in their
trucks.
drugs. That's right. That's what they utilize to do so. So once again, I don't. And you said it already on the show. You don't conflate it. I don't conflate it. It's a different conversation than the conversation of undocumented individuals. You and I actually agree that it has to be tackled from the sense of having a policy to stabilize other regions so that you don't have the same influx. And what about those who are currently in America? You cited 22 million. There are other studies that cite 11. The truth is, everybody's lying because nobody really knows how many. What would you have as a policy for those who are undocumented right now in America?
I probably think discussions of amnesty shouldn't include citizenship, something more like the ability to reside here. If you pay a whole number of back taxes, if you haven't committed any crimes, you go through a probation period after applying where you have to be employed and you don't receive federal benefits, then yeah, maybe you can get a green card to stay here. But that kind of discussion can only be had after we are able to know who is entering our country. Securing the border has to come first. Any discussion of what amnesty looks like should come later.
Well, securing the border means to stabilize other regions. I'm with you on that.
Well, I don't think we should be cash. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I don't believe a wall can solve your border crisis. There's not a wall built that another man cannot climb over or tunnel under. There's not a wall that exists where that won't be a possibility, right? So you have to be more thoughtful about what you mean by border security.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're a practical guy, man. You seem to have some practical insight to some of these things. And like I said, I don't disagree with everything you're saying. 22 million, let's go with that number for the sake of this conversation.
Sure.
You are practical enough to know you don't have the manpower to deport or even try to find 22 million people in America, right?
Right.
Okay. So you have to bring them to some legal status, even if it's a worker status. You have to bring them to some legal status. And here's what that does for you. It does a few things. Number one, it allows you to have that vetting process that so many on the right claim does not exist. So now you have individuals who are part of a process that says, okay, now we know what we're working with. Number two, you then force employers to stop taking advantage of the undocumented workers by paying them $4.25 an hour. Now they become more competitive with their wages in the marketplace. They're skilled laborers, so you're always gonna need skilled labor, but these corporations are taking advantage, major advantage of undocumented workers by paying them pennies. So you do that, you increase your tax base, you increase your revenue base. I think everything rises. But you have to have the discussion of bringing undocumented individuals in America to some legal status in order for the process to continue to move forward.
Right, but you can't really do that without inviting disaster and a huge surge in people trying to illegally cross the border, right? We need, the only way that we can actually move forward with bringing these people to some kind of legal status is if we have a firm policy of not letting people in who merely show up at the southern border if they don't have an existing visa.
But what's your, okay, so we're back to the border thing again. Do you think a wall stops people?
Stop some people.
Okay, so what else?
What else? Something like E-Verify would be pretty useful, where the legality of a worker's resident status would be one small, simple check that's done when an employee is trying to apply for work at a company.
Yeah, but they don't want to do that. 5 states have 60% of undocumented workers, according to recent data. These 5 states heavily depend on undocumented workers for the agriculture industry, right? Easily, the federal government could have passed a law that basically said, hey, if you, or they could have enforced the law, not even passed, the law's already there. If you hire undocumented labor, we are going to hold you accountable to the same federal law. But they don't do that, right? Oh. So once again, it's not practical if you know neither side will do that. That would dry up a lot of the undocumented travel to the United States because they're coming here for work. They go to other countries for work as well. But if you do a few things, follow me on this, brother, and tell me if you agree with what I'm saying. You have a massive and strategic plan to ensure that you economically stabilize the labor markets in the home country, number one. Number two, you have an open system, a transparent system between governments so that there's a level of communication so that you can understand where the weak spots are, where the opportunities are for vulnerability or exploitation, because you do need to catch those who are trafficking drugs and trafficking children. I agree with you on that.
Do you think the United States has ever been successful in stabilizing a country with cash? Like, do we know who we're supporting? How successful are we?
Let me tell you, brother. That's why we need progressives. Yeah, Afghanistan was a complete nightmare. That's why we need progressives in charge. Let me tell you what you all have never done. You all have always had old white men in charge, Democrats and Republicans. We've had corporate Democrats in charge, Barack Obama. We've had this. Progressives, I think it's time for progressives to have a shot at what it looks like from a heart perspective and a policy perspective combined. Because whatever disagreement you may have with progressives, you can't disagree that these are not more authentic politicians than others.
The sad thing about progressives is that they fail to recognize human nature. In theory, in a world without people who commit crimes, people who aren't envious, people who aren't lustful, people who won't steal, progressive policies might have a chance of working, but the world is a dark place.
Yeah, I gotta disagree with you on that, brother. Progressive policies is why I'm here today, because of progressive policies that were passed in my state by way of the federal government. I could go to college. I had a first offender when I was 17 years of age. I'm felony free today. I am a college professor. So policies do work, progressive policies do work. And let me remind you that Dr. King, during his time, was a progressive, so progressive they called him a radical. And this radical said that we can live in a different kind of society. Well, guess what? Even though the dream has not been fully realized, he was right. People told him the same thing. You're living in a fantasy world. A black child will never go to school with a white child. It would never happen in this country. A black elected official would never be able to be a US senator or governor, etc. It has happened in this country. A black president is not a reality. It has happened in this country. So I push back because progressives, everything that you enjoy right now, from your healthcare policy to your minimum wage, it all came because of a progressive who submitted the idea. Kenneth, it has been a pleasure, brother. I want to bring you back on the show, man. Tell people how they can follow you.
Thank you. Please follow me at Kenneth Schrupp on Twitter, or you can look up the California Review.
All right, thank you, Kenneth.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. All right. Remember, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.